In 1977, when Anwar Sadat made his historic visit to Israel, I knew I wanted to interview this man of peace. In fact, I thought it was important to go to the Middle East to interview all the leaders and to interview them at the same moment in history. Then Anwar Sadat was assassinated, and like many people, I felt a great sadness, a sense of despair. Suddenly, we were farther away from peace in the Middle East. We saw Bashir Gemayel assassinated, the invasion of Lebanon, the expulsion of Yasser Arafat from his PLO stronghold, the massacres at Sabra and Shatila, the cooling of relations between Egypt and Israel, the resignation of Menachem Begin, the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, and the deaths of our Marines in Lebanon. With each event, I felt more strongly the need to understand, what do these countries want? What do they need to be able to come to terms with each other? To get the answers to those questions, I traveled to the Middle East through 5 countries and talked with 8 men in power. In Egypt, President Hosni Mubarak. In Tunisia, Yasser Arafat, chairman of the PLO. In Lebanon, President Amin Gemayel. In Jordan, King Hussein. And in Israel, Prime Minister Shimon Peres. Defense Minister Moshe Arens. Former Defense Minister Ariel Sharon. And the President of Israel, Chaim Herzog. The interviews were done in just 11 days because conditions change very quickly in the Middle East, and I wanted all of the leaders to react to present circumstances. As I interviewed each of these men, I heard promises, denials, charges, and countercharges. Originally, the interviews were broadcast individually over 7 days, but I felt it would be more enlightening for you to hear in one program what they say about themselves and what they say about each other. By listening to their words, we can gain a better understanding of the complexities of these men and the countries they lead. I hope that the conflict in the Middle East and the prospects for peace will be easier to comprehend through these portraits of power.
If they want to know what Israel wants, why don't they sit down and ask Israel and talk to Israel? The fact is that the Arab leaders are prevaricating. They don't have the guts to come and talk.
We are ready, but with the participation of the Palestinians as a new element which should join the negotiations now.
I said that I am ready to open negotiation with all the parties concerned in this Middle East conflicts, including the Israelis, because I'm not dealing with ghosts. They are trying to hide the sun with their finger. Even the American administration, when they said no for the Palestinians. I am not saying that. I will not do the same, because I'm not dealing with the ghosts. The Israelis are occupying my country. We have to face them. So I said I'm ready to have this peaceful conference with all the parties concerned, definitely including the Israelis.
In my view, Arafat and the PLO are totally irrelevant.
But the leaders of the Arab states have chosen Yasser Arafat.
Leaders of the Arab states indulge in a great deal of double talk. Leaders of the Arab states don't want Arafat. They don't want a Palestinian state. They never have wanted a Palestinian state.
Begin used to say that we will not recognize the Palestinians, with whom he was fighting 88 days in Beirut. With the ghosts, the Palestinians.
The PLO is a terrorist organization, and I would hope that nobody in the civilized world would be ready to recognize them.
I think the first thing that the Palestinians themselves should be united, first of all, and discuss the problem, and the coordination with Hussein, the link with Hussein, should be decided by the Palestinian, by the PLO.
King Hussein knows that the Palestinian state in the West Bank is a far greater danger to him than it is to Israel. He'll never contemplate it. But what does it cost him now to appear to be a great Palestinian patriot and say he wants it? He knows nothing's going to happen. He's not entering into negotiations with us.
As if we were responsible for lack of progress towards peace. No one has done more for that, or would be willing to do more than ourselves if there was a way out. But to portray us as the obstacles in the path of peace is really not only unfair, but totally untrue. And obviously, what destroyed the Reagan initiative was Israel and her attitudes and in her actions on the ground.
It's all very well for King Hussein to speak, but he and the people like him are in no small measure responsible for a hardening of the position in Israel.
As a Jew, and first of all, I'm a Jew. First of all, I can tell you that as a Jew, I don't feel that I owe anything to anyone in the world. I think that the rest of the world owes us, the Jews.
Everything for the Israelis. The state of Israel, the Israelis, the future of the Israelis. But we, the victims, who had been kicked out from their homeland and living as refugees, homeless, spread it all over the world, we have it in the rights. We are human beings.
We're not dealing here with the problem of basically peaceful peoples, democratic societies that value very highly the life of a human being, that don't want to go to war, that abhor terror, and that simply are putting forth a legitimate grievance. The Palestinian Arabs have a state. It's called Jordan, it's not called Palestine.
The PLO is the Palestinian Liberation Organization. Its sole reason for existence is to liberate the territories occupied.
He's playing a game that whose object it is to keep himself in power, to prevent any danger to the continuation of his sitting on the throne in Jordan.
The Jordanians not only are buying arms, they know that they will meet very dangerous arms. And where are we going? All of us.
We are a very small state, and we are far more threatened than Israel is by Israel, supported by the United States continuously, in a position to threaten militarily the entire Arab world.
Relations between Jordan and the United States have cooled in the last year, and King Hussein has turned to the Soviet Union to purchase weapons for Jordan. I found that each of the leaders has a definite opinion on the kind of involvement he expects from the United States and from the Soviet Union.
We are looking forward to have relations with all countries all over the world.
When you're dealing with superpowers like the United States and the Soviet Union, friction always seems to come into play.
Look, we have special relation with the United States. Any relation with any other country all over the world will not affect or be on the expenses of our relation with the United States.
Israel has done much in the occupied territories to change demographically and in every other respect the shape of this land. Israel claims it. It is the next part of the occupied territory. And Israel has the material, military, political, moral support of the United States to the point where the United States has become a strategic ally of Israel. This, unfortunately, has been to the detriment of the United States in terms of its ability to be the peacemaker, the side that is neutral and objective. And on the other hand, there are other realities. The Soviets are in the area. I believe they will be opposed to any attempt to move towards a solution without recognizing the fact that they also are involved and would like to be involved in that. We are really at a point where I think sadly and justifiably we say that the United States has lost its credibility with us, lost it in the area. To be the sole mediator, the peacemaker.
And have the Soviets picked up credibility?
The Soviets may have picked up credibility. At least the Soviets have continuity, which is not the case with our friends in the United States in terms of their foreign policy towards this area, with the constant changes domestically that affect the area in every respect and every way.
I do believe that the United States is sincerely interested in introducing peace in the Middle East. I wouldn't say it about the Russians. I think the Russians want to have a peace of the Middle East. And I expect the United States to go on and carry as a superpower a great measure of goodwill and good officers in order to bring the parties together and bring peace to the region.
The American administration didn't listen to me when I said the volcano, which started in Beirut, it will not stop. They insist to close their ears. completely. They don't want to listen for the realities and facts. When Carter was in power, no for the Palestinian state. Later, he himself, Carter, with Ford, with Eisenhower, with Nixon, and with others, said, yes, the Palestinians have the right to have their homeland, and they have the right to have their independent state. Some of them, by minute or others. Not the same slogans, but different slogans. But when they were in power, they completely neglecting the Palestinian rights.
Well, in my view, the United States of America has been pursuing a policy in the Middle East which has, despite all the problems, gained the respect and the trust of a good part of the Middle East. The Americans have, I mean, on certain issues, people have not been too happy.
The Arab states don't agree with that evaluation of the United States.
Well, what they say to you is one thing, and what they mean is another, and that one always has to remember when you're talking to Arab representatives. They will always, they're speaking, first of all, to the gallery, and privately, they're hoping that the United States will get them off the hook.
Then what of the Soviet ties? They're becoming stronger with each of the Arab states.
They have ties, it's true, but they really are involved here in the Middle East as purveyors of death. They do nothing but supply arms. They've got no standing whatsoever in the political negotiations.
But they want one.
Well, they've no relations with Israel. After all, we are 50% of the problem. And how can you have a standing in an argument unless you have relations with both sides, and both sides are willing to trust you? At the moment, both sides are willing, in one way or another, to trust the United States. We certainly are. We don't always agree with the United States, but the relationship is a healthy, a civilized one. The Soviet Union is just warmongering in the area. It's supplying weapons of war.
What do you need from the United States? What do you want from the United States?
We have already your friendship. We have it already, and we are proud. We have very close relations with President Reagan. We appreciate everything they did for Lebanon. We tried together to implement the agreement 17th of May for the withdrawal of the foreign forces from Lebanon. And maybe we failed in this experience, but it doesn't mean that the U.S. don't have a permanent role in Lebanon. We are working together to build the best future for Lebanon, and we are in permanent contact with the American people, because we serve together the same principles of democracy.
Did you feel abandoned when the U.S. troops were pulled out of it?
No, never. I've said to your colleagues few months ago that our relations go beyond the military presence in Lebanon.
Tell me about the Soviet Union.
And we have, as I've said, Lebanon is a member of the non-aligned countries, and we would like to have a close contacts and close relations with everybody. We have very close contacts with the Soviet Union. I have myself been in the Soviet Union in 1972, 73. We had also some ministers who went to Moscow recently, but it doesn't mean that Lebanon could become communist or could become a member of the Warsaw Pact or any kind Intercom or any kind of other alliances under a Soviet umbrella. Lebanon,
it's said, though, that the Soviets want to influence Lebanon.
Sure, everybody would like to influence Lebanon, because Lebanon is like a very beautiful girl, and everybody would like to
have a date.
But Reagan's plan, we agreed to Reagan's plan, and we supported Reagan's plan. And if the United States could persuade the Israelis who refused the Reagan's plan to start working on the basis of Reagan's plan, we will never reject that.
If we have a problem, it's with Washington, and in the United States in particular. I believe inevitably the American people will understand this area and will understand its problems. But will that understanding come in time before disaster overtakes all of us?
Disaster is a word often used to describe what happened in Lebanon. When we return, we'll find out who controls Lebanon today, from President Gemayel.
Rich presents turkey at its best. Turkey. Cooked and carved for you, whole from the bird. It's Louis Rich breast of turkey. Boneless and so naturally lean. There's more than enough for family dinner one night. And sandwiches the next. All from the goodness of Louis Rich.
Light drink mix is sweetened a whole new way. There's no sugar, no saccharin, and no saccharin aftertaste. All these natural flavors taste so terrific.
It's hard to believe there's only 4 calories a glass. I believe in Crystal Light, 'cause I believe in me.
For 1985, Plymouth engineers a new 550 Reliant K, the Reliant Super K. Matching the best 6-passenger car value, backed with 550 protection, aerodynamically redesigned to be more efficient. We made the best better. 550 Reliant, the Super K. Match it if you can. Plymouth, best built, best backed American cars.
Panasonic introduces a new lightweight video system that's so automatic it works by itself. The camera focuses by itself. It even records in low light, all by itself. This Panasonic VHS recorder connects almost by itself and plays back with special effects. This Panasonic through your stereo creates hi-fi sound that stands out by itself. Panasonic, just slightly ahead of our time.
One ground decaffeinated coffee tastes so smooth and rich. So incredibly smooth and rich, it's grown to be the biggest seller in the country. But now Brim is offering you a big choice, because now there's new Brim Dark Roast with a taste that's dark, hearty, and robust. So now when you fill your cup to the rim, you have a big decision. Regular roast or new dark roast.
Look who's talking on Freeman Reports.
I was out to win a popularity contest.
Celebrities and newsmakers. Even you can get in on the conversation.
Hello, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Freeman Reports, every weeknight at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on Cable News Network. Look for your CNN channel on your cable system. It's more entertaining than you'd expect.
While the conflicts may go beyond the borders of the Middle East, they have become crystallized in Lebanon, a country that has been so weakened by its own civil war that it has become the battleground for the territorial ambitions of Israel, the PLO, and Syria. Now there is an uneasy peace in Lebanon, but questions about its independence and security still remain. Will Amin Gemayel be able to solve the problems of Lebanon and unite his country in the face of pressure from the outside? Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Arens doesn't think so.
Well, I think President Gemayel, in large measure, has surrendered to Syrian pressure. I think he makes no bones about that. I think he admits that.
He denies it.
He denies it, okay. then you can judge for yourself. But it certainly seems as if he today accepts any and all of the dictates that come out of Damascus.
Lebanon is independent and free and will remain as such, even if we have close relations with President Assad.
I don't think that you can point to a single thing that the Gemayel government is doing in Lebanon these last few months that is not in accordance with the desires of Damascus.
I believe in very close relations with the Syrians because we have common borders, we have common interests, we have common history with the Syrians between Lebanon and Syria. For that, we need close relations with the Syrians, but it not means that Lebanon should be under any kind of control. We have our policy, they have theirs.
The attempt to bring peace to Lebanon was a multinational effort, an effort engineered in part by the United States. This was not the first time an American president led the initiative for peace in this region. Jimmy Carter brought Israel and Egypt together at Camp David. The impact of President Reagan's peace plan is yet to be determined, but Ronald Reagan's impact has clearly been established.
I have great respect for him and a great affinity, and I believe he's a man of principle and of courage. And he's indeed a good friend. And if I have been critical, it's not, and has not been my intention to direct this criticism towards the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan in particular.
You know, I read someplace where you once said of Margaret Thatcher, and I want to be sure and get the exact quote. You said, she's tough. That's her business. What about Ronald Reagan? Do you think he's tough? Give me your impression of him.
He's a very good man. I like him. He may not be tough, but he is the President of the United States before this or that. He's a true man. When I have met with him several times, I found him very flexible, understandable, and his decisions are being taken after a good study from his administration.
It would seem to me then that it would be, that Egypt would be happy for that administration to continue.
Tell me, are you pro-Reagan or pro-Mondale so I speak with you?
Would Egypt then be happier to see that?
We know Reagan as a president and we worked with his administration. Yes. We have no objection at all. But if the American people elected Walter Mondale, we can't change. We have to deal with Walter Mondale.
Give me your impression of Ronald Reagan.
I can't forget, to speak frankly, I can't forget that he gave the green light for the invasion of Beirut.
And yet I am sure he would say he did not.
No, I'm sure he gave it.
Why are you sure?
You can, very simply, you have to return back to the memories which had been written by Mr. Alexander Haig. He unmasked completely the whole story in his memories. It's not me who had written it.
I have read his book, and I cannot place it in my mind right now that he said that.
Who said? It is mentioned how he was planning. He was completely involved in this matter. With Sharon, with the Israeli officers, with the Israeli politicians, and so on.
I would like to repeat it again and again. I repeated that. I would like to repeat it again. We never got any green light, not from Secretary Haig and not from anybody else.
Let me add a footnote to this dispute. In an interview on Freeman Reports earlier this year, I asked General Haig if he had given Israel the green light to invade Lebanon. His response, and I quote, "Not only have I denied it, but I go into excruciating detail in my book to discredit it by listing both the official dispatches made by myself, by the President, quoting directly from the messages to Mr. Begin, quoting directly the minutes of my discussion with Minister Sharon. Clearly, it's a fabrication, and clearly it has some domestic political motivation which we Americans shouldn't be too unfamiliar with." Hosni Mubarak came to power after the assassination of Anwar Sadat. Amin Gemayel became the president of Lebanon after his brother Bashir was assassinated. Hussein was crowned king of Jordan at age 17 after his grandfather was assassinated and his father was found unfit to rule. These three men were propelled to power by assassination in this region where leadership often changes hands through acts of violence. How did that sudden rise to power affect them? We'll hear their thoughts when we return.
In this ever-changing world, it's nice to know there are still some things you can count on, like Sanka. No wonder more people drink Sanka brand than any other decaffeinated coffee. Sanka, the first name in decaffeinated coffee.
Here's a terrific Jell-O gelatin snack. Instead of cold water, add any fruit juice to Jell-O, set, and serve.
Wow! Make your Jell-O gelatin, create a sensation. J-B-L-L-O.
What would you call a Zenith that's ready now for TV stereo sound?
Smart.
With a remote that lets you switch from VCR to computer to cable to games with one easy touch.
Smart.
Plus the new Zenith Chromacolor Contrast Picture Tube for superb color.
Smart.
The Smart Sets, advanced System 3 from Zenith, designed with Zenith computer technology when you want everything. Smart.
In lasting tribute to heroes North and South, the National Historical Society of Gettysburg now dedicates the Civil War chess set. Once again, the armies stand face to face. Ulysses S. Grant, Union King. Robert E. Lee, Confederate King. Sherman, Custer, Stuart, Wheeler. Bishops and knights, roll call of glory. Each figure an original portrait sculpture created for the Historical Society by the artists of the Franklin Mint. Each piece cast in fine pewter, set on a solid brass base, hand enameled in Union blue or Confederate gray. Look close at General Stuart, rakish hat with ostrich plumes. Jeb Stuart rides again. Note, too, the etched strength of Lee's face, the infantry bedroll, Sherman's inimitable bow tie. Detail authentic and astonishing. The set is unique, and so is its board. Hand-worked, pewter-finished with fitted case, both provided at no additional charge. You acquire your set in an easy, systematic way. Simply call 1-800-257-1234 and receive 2 Civil War chess pieces every other month. You pay for only 1 piece at a time, only $17.50 a month. A remarkable price for art of this quality. If you choose, you may complete your set all at once. Best order by credit card or pay COD with a $1 service charge. Each piece has the Franklin Mint's return assurance. The first move is yours. Call 1-800-257-1234.
Welcome to the great outdoors and enjoy fresh air, blue skies, and the challenges of a natural paradise.
It's a state that grants its citizens a precious gift. The gift of not having things too easy.
Discover this rugged wilderness where the weather ranges from cold to colder, and the spirit of America still shines through. Visit Maine on our continuing series, Portrait of America, Monday on Superstation WTBS.
In doing research on the leaders of the Middle East, it became clear to me that Mubarak of Egypt, Gemayel of Lebanon, and Hussein of Jordan did not like to talk about themselves. They each came to power because their predecessor was assassinated. Perhaps that's why they're hesitant to answer questions that concern their lives or their families. But I felt it was important to find out how they accepted their fate and how their lives changed because of the power they inherited through violence.
King Hussein, in reading about you, you were 16 years old the first time there was an assassination attempt on your life, and a medal that your grandfather had pinned on you that day saved your life from the bullet. Now, there have been 11 documented assassination attempts against your life. One would think that would make a man almost frightened.
I'm a fatalist. I've seen so much in my life to cause me to be thus, and I believe that when my time comes, it will come. To live my life thinking about danger would make it almost impossible for me to fulfill my responsibilities and my duty. I've always tried to be able to live with myself to the best of my ability. And I believe in God, and I believe that when it's my time to go, I will. And life is too short to worry about what may happen next. We have to keep trying to the best of our ability, and that is the way I've lived.
Do you also feel that your fatalistic attitude about life is responsible for some of the other actions that you have taken, such as it was reported in 1967 during the war, that there you were out in front of the men. You were going ahead of them in a jeep. That is something that is usually not done and would seem to take great amount of courage.
Oddly enough, in a crisis, I never think of the moment. I think beyond that. Maybe I think in retrospect of what might have happened later, but in the face of danger, I've always been able to look ahead and to move. In one occasion in 1967, we were overtaking an ammunition convoy that had come under air attack, and bombs were exploding regularly, and I had to go forward to see what was happening. And I remember my driver saying, we can't move, and I said, well, our lives are not better than those who have lost them in these trucks. Move, and we moved, and nothing happened until we passed the danger point. 67 was really a point in time when all one's dreams and hopes were shattered. We did not go to war thinking that we would win. We went to war knowing that we would lose. We went to war because we were members of the Arab League. We had to honor an agreement to support each other if war were waged upon us. It was one of the most difficult phases of my life, and it has left an impact which continues with me to this day and will forever, I suppose.
Thinking back to when you were 17 years old and you became the monarch of Jordan, it was probably something that you expected to happen in your life, but certainly not at that age, certainly not that young. And having lived through all of the trials that you have lived through, has there ever been a moment when you had wished that that was not your duty?
I don't think I've had the luxury to think that way. Of course, it was my dearest wish that I would have been able to live a normal life. My grandfather, the founder of the kingdom, Arab patriot, a man who fought in the Arab revolt and was one of its leaders, normally might have lived for many more years, my father after him. And if it ever came to me, it was very far from my thoughts that I would be involved in what has been the life of Jordan at that early age. I had lived as a normal Jordanian through difficult years, through the first years of this country, really, in a way. But it happened, and when it did, I had to live up to the expectations of the people who were to me the elder members of my family, or the younger ones who adopted me as their son, and who were my brothers and friends. And at the same time, as a Hashemite, I had to do my utmost, as my family has always done. It has been a part of the Arab struggle throughout its history. And one had to keep trying to live with oneself and to live up to the expectations of others and their hopes. And my dearest wish has been and will always be to contribute something for a better future for these people.
Mr. President, did you ever think that you would be president of Lebanon?
You know that I don't like to talk about this period of my life, because maybe for the first time in the world, maybe instead to receive congratulations when I was elected, I was receiving condolences because of the death of my brother. And I devoted myself since the beginning to for my country since I was elected in the parliament in 1970. Now I'm president. I'm trying to do my best to implement this, to achieve this beautiful task.
Fate stepped into your life.
You know, my feelings on that are not important. The most important now is to be strong, to have the feet on ground, and to work hard without thinking about your impressions or your own feelings. You have something very important to accomplish. Your task is marvelous. You have to succeed. For that, I have faith in God and my people too. And I'm sure that we'll be able to accomplish something important, not only for Lebanon, but also for peace and freedom.
You mean your father,
Yes.
Pierre Gemayel,
Yes.
and then your brother's involvement,
Yes.
and your involvement, as you
Yes.
said, in Parliament since 1970. Do you wish the same involvement? Do you wish to pass this on to your sons?
It's not your decision. That's the attitudes of your son, if they would like to help or not. It's not the heritage. Maybe I have those attitude because I was with my father. We lived together, etc. But it's not a. You have many politicians who their son do something else. I hope that my son will be as dedicated as I am, but also they could have another direction, another vocation.
And that would be all right too.
I hope so.
And I was thinking, knowing that you had never had the ambition to be the president, that when people introduce you as President Hosni Mubarak, I mean, we all, from the time we are small children, I think we think back to things of our childhood when we see ourselves in a position that we never wished for, never worked for. Not that
You
we weren't
remember
working.
yourself from when you were a child?
Of course. I do, don't you? Is it different?
When I was a child,
Yes.
I just remembered when I was a child that I have never thought of being a president. At that time there was kingdom here and there was a king. Nobody thinks that he's going to be a king. But when I became president, I returned back to my childhood. I remembered all my things.
The decision to become a pilot, was that a decision you made?
You know, at that time, it was in 1948. To be a pilot is a terror to all the families in this country. That means he's going to commit suicide. He's going to be killed. He's going to make a crash. So we have to take our decision. I took my decision, and we have to give a certificate to the academy that my father agreed. All of us used to write the certificate and put the signature of our fathers.
Because your fathers wouldn't agree.
The mothers will never agree.
Yes.
So the father accordingly will never agree. So we have to sign it, all of us. All my group went to the flying school, just all signed this certificate that I, the father, so-and-so, agreed for my son to go to the flying school. They were telling Arafat. And I joined the flying college after being graduated from the military college.
And what did your mother say when she found out?
It's a fact. Grandfather, I joined the Air Force.
Already done. Too late.
It's finished.
As far as your family is concerned, now I'm speaking of, you know, family that you grew up with, not your own wife or your children. How have they reacted to your rise in the political realm in Egypt?
My family?
Yes.
When I was appointed as vice president, they were very angry, all of them. When the assassination took place and I have to face my fate, they were annoyed. The freedom is limited now. They can't do what they won't do.
So you no longer have any privacy?
Yes. No privacy for the president at all. He's watched by so many people everywhere, even during lunchtime. The best time for me was even being a chief of staff of the Air Force. I had my freedom, as could do whatever I like to do. Nobody knows me very well in the streets. I could walk in the street. It's very enjoyable to walk in the streets with the vitrines, see the people here. Nobody knows you. But now, you can't do it. Even when I became an Air Force commander, I was known more than before. A vice president, it is difficult. A president, it is impossible to walk on the street freely without guards. At least the people will shake hands with you, each one will kiss you. You can't move.
Yes.
You can't, you will see nothing in the street. So better stay at home, in the four fences.
3 different men, 3 different ways of handling power. We'll be back in just a moment, and when we return, we'll hear from all 8 leaders about the prospects for peace in the Middle East.
Louis Rich presents Turkey at its best. Turkey. Cooked and carved for you, whole from the bird. It's Louis Rich breast of turkey. Boneless and so naturally lean. There's more than enough for family dinner one night. And sandwiches the next. All from the goodness of Louis Rich.
One ground decaffeinated coffee tastes so smooth and rich. So incredibly smooth and rich, it's going to be the biggest seller in the country. But now Brim is offering you a big choice, because now there's new Brim Dark Roast with a taste that's dark, hearty, and robust. So now when you fill your cup to the rim, you have a big decision. Regular roast or new dark roast.
I believe in being the best I can be. I believe in counting every calorie. I believe in Crystal Light, 'cause I believe in me.
New Crystal Light drink mix is sweetened a whole new way. There's no sugar, no saccharin, and no saccharin aftertaste. All these natural flavors taste so terrific.
It's hard to believe there's only 4 calories a glass.
I believe in Crystal Light, 'cause I believe in me.
Introducing a Plymouth, engineered with quality and luxury to challenge Buick Century and Old Sierra, but for hundreds less. Introducing Caravelle. Match it. Caravelle, with luxury equipment and comfort for a family of 6. Caravelle, with the 550 protection plan and the option of turbo power. The 550 Plymouth Caravelle. Match it if you can. Plymouth, best built, best backed American cars.
Weeknights on CNN, Sandi Freeman invites you to meet the people in power.
If you want to understand the foreign policy of the United States, look at the decisions of the president.
And the folks who make you smile. The stars who light up the stage.
Well, I could act better than anybody.
And bring life to the silver screen.
Boy, did I have a lot of guts.
Weeknights, share an hour with the people who share their lives with the world on Freeman Reports.
It's very much about people now.
Freeman Reports, weeknights at 9 Eastern on CNN. At 10 p.m. Eastern, the CNN Evening News brings you a full hour of news. From Washington to Wall Street, cold fronts to quarterbacks, CNN's 10 o'clock Evening News is America's national newscast. Weeknights turn to CNN for Freeman Reports at 9 Eastern and the CNN Evening News at 10. On CNN, evenings are more intriguing than you'd expect.
I learned a lot on this journey to the Middle East. I learned a sense of history that can't be found in books. I learned a new perspective on the conflict that has enveloped the Middle East for centuries. I learned to recognize the shadow of tragedy in a small child's eyes because her family was massacred. I learned that I never want my child to draw pictures of bombs being dropped on his playground. I learned what it feels like to have a 16-year-old boy aim his machine gun at me. I learned that having power does not make a person wise or kind or evil. The 8 men I spoke with in the Middle East have the power. How will they use it? To make war or to make peace?
I know we keep coming back to this, but it seems to me with all of the great men and women in this world, there has to be a way that we could talk and find peaceful solutions.
I'm sure of it. No doubt. There must be an end. No doubt of it.
And I think that as long as Arab countries are not ready to recognize our existence, it really is too much to expect that there's going to be peace in the area.
One can talk about the trend, and the trend is trend of a peace.
You couldn't be able to achieve a real peace in the Middle East without taking in consideration the Lebanese experience.
Israel has always been willing to make a compromise and has therefore been successful. The Arab side has never been willing to take less than 100%, been unwilling to compromise, and therefore has failed all along.
I could tell you the time is against the solution of the problem now.
So you still have great optimism.
They used to say that the Israeli that doesn't believe in miracles is not a realist.
There is always hope. And there is hope that people the world over will realize what is happening in this area as well, and will help all of us in this area move towards the establishment of a just and durable peace.
Thanks for being with us. We'll see you on the next program.
This is CNN Headline News. You're in tune with the world.
The candidates debate. Hello, I'm Bud Elliott. In about 3 hours, President Reagan and Walter Mondale face each other for the first time in this campaign. They'll debate domestic issues in Louisville, Kentucky at 9 Eastern Time. President Reagan says he's as ready as he'll ever be, but did admit he's a little nervous. With most polls showing him far behind, Walter Mondale perhaps has more at stake, but he says he's relaxed and ready to make his case.
I feel good about tonight. This is an opportunity for Americans to measure both of us against the needs of our future, and I feel confident that I'm going to be able to make the case that I think is important.
Some experts have said that the debates are Mondale's one and only chance to turn the polls around. CNN's Bernard Shaw looks at how the debates have been meant in the past.
The historian's dream debate, Illinois' Long Abe and the Little Giant. 1858. What Stephen Douglas and Abraham Lincoln did in their Senate campaign, 7 confrontations, remains the classic. Listen to another Prairie State son.
Lincoln and Douglas, of course, were free to go on at great length and to very pointedly lance the arguments of their opponent.
Arguments and issues did not beat this front-running vice president in the 20th century's first nationally televised debate, nor did sloppy preparation or his distractingly painful knee banged against a car door outside the TV studio. John Kennedy's dark suit contrasted strikingly under the lights. Richard Nixon's bled into the background. Image, form, appearance, says Kennedy's advisor and political analyst Lou Harris.
He was rather pleased that all he needed was a little powder at the end of his nose, which was shiny, and didn't need makeup. He had a deep tan all the time and was a ruddy complexion. And later he told me that Nixon did look like a ghost when he walked into the studio.
Nixon's mistake was trying to do what Lincoln and Douglas did, follow the true tenets of debate, speaking to Kennedy's points. Kennedy spoke to the millions at home, persuasively, later defeating Nixon by a bare 112,000 votes. This new dimension in American politics would teach new lessons and tricks. Moderator Edwin Newman.
The trick in debating, genuine debating, or one of them, is to take what your opponent says and turn it against him. And to do that, you must listen. You must listen closely.
Not listening closely was President Ford when he stuck his foot in his mouth going against Jimmy Carter in 1976. Even after panelists asked Ford the same question twice about Russia beating Eastern countries, especially Poland, into submission.
There is no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, and there never will be under a Ford administration.
The worst part, says Ford's advisor, Richard Cheney, was Ford's ego.
His immediate reaction was one of stubbornness. He didn't want to say, I made a mistake. He didn't want to go out and correct the mistake, and probably the most damaging part of the problem for us wasn't the original statement, but rather that it took us about 3 or 4 days to clear it up and put it behind us so that we could get on to other issues in the campaign.
No president has ever been the champion of all these debates. Even flag and family haven't helped.
I had a discussion with my daughter Amy the other day before I came here to ask her what the most important issue was. She said she thought nuclear weaponry.
The tactical innovation in the 1980 debates was the Reagan rub. Unfrock your Oval Office opponent by calling him Mr. Carter, not President, and needle him with a one-liner over and over. Listen.
These are the kind of elements of a national health insurance important to the American people. Governor Reagan, again, typically is against such a proposal.
Governor, there you go again. None of that addresses meaty issues, domestic or foreign. The so-called winners of these debates rode home to victory on a horse of 3 names: form, appearance, perception. Take it from an almost forgotten who debated the great communicator in 1980.
You aren't going to change Ronald Reagan's mind, after all, in what you say. If you're Fritz Mondale, you're not going to change his mind. But you certainly hope to change the minds and influence some of the millions of people who are watching.
And so what happens on this stage, some are calling it a televised news conference, will have to masquerade for what Lincoln and Douglas did 126 years ago. They debated. Bernard Shaw, CNN Election Watch.
The Space Shuttle astronauts are trying to get back to scheduled work aboard the Challenger. Today, the crew managed to maneuver the ship to point a broken antenna toward a satellite. Only about 10 of the originally planned 50 hours of radar data will be transmitted now. Tuesday's spacewalk is also expected to be delayed until Thursday. Israeli Prime Minister Shimon Peres met with New York City Mayor Ed Koch today. Peres is in the United States for a 6-day trip. Tuesday, the Prime Minister will meet with President Reagan. He is expected to present a plan for withdrawing Israeli troops from Lebanon. An Israeli official says the plan is to create 2 zones, one patrolled by a UN force, the other by an Israeli-backed militia. Lebanese Prime Minister Rashid Karami has asked for more UN security troops to aid in an Israeli pullout. CNN's Jim Clancy reports reaction to the request is mixed.
6,000 United Nations peacekeeping troops are stationed in Lebanon, and that number may be increased to provide for an Israeli withdrawal from the south. Last week, Israel announced it was willing to let the UN forces provide security instead of the militiamen they have been trying to recruit and train. The massacre of villagers at Sahmor last month may have had a considerable impact on that decision. The massacre was carried out by the Israeli-trained militiamen as an act of revenge for an ambush of one of their patrols. But the Israelis are also deeply concerned that they have created a powerful enemy among the predominantly Shia Muslim community in the south, a community that welcomed their invasion in 1982 to force out the PLO. Israel admits almost 600 of their troops have been killed in South Lebanon, while other independent sources say it could be as many as 800.
From CNN Headline News, this has been TBS Newswatch.